Welcome to 10-Minute Writing Tips. This segment is on brainstorming story ideas. I'm excited to talk about this topic because brainstorming is really an opportunity to play. It's the stage where writers are least hemmed in and a story idea can go anywhere. In this short recording, we'll be going over some prompts that can help spark fresh ideas. We'll be moving quickly, but you can always pause or rewatch the video if you want to go over something again. As with any writing advice, take what works and leave the rest behind. If you're getting ready to start a new story idea, the freedom of the big wide open can generate excitement and creativity. But if you're staring at a blank page, it can also feel a bit overwhelming. Brainstorming has the potential to be the most playful stage of the writing process. It should be fun. So let's look at some ways to tap into the joy of creating by making a personalized id list that you can use in your own writing. What is the id? The id is part of Freud's model of the psyche. It's the part that's driven by the pleasure principle. Stay with me, and we'll see how you can use this to your benefit in your own writing. Psychologist Dr. Jennifer Barnes gave a great talk at a writers' conference about writing to your id, in which she advised looking to our ids to find the things that give us joy and pleasure, basically taking the word guilty out of the phrase guilty pleasure and just enjoying what we enjoy. How do you fill this list? With things you love. They can include common tropes you like, character archetypes, themes, settings, favorite objects, etc. You can see that some of the items on this slide are types of characters. Some are plot elements. There are also some settings and a few random things such as unusual pets and wedding cakes made the list. Once finished, your id list might look random to someone else, but it will be a collection of things that you love. And if you write what you love, your enthusiasm will come through on the page. So let's talk about some ways to fill in this list. Story tropes can be a good place to start. A trope is a commonly used literary device, something that's used again and again because it connects with people on some deep level through our shared experiences, our hopes and fears. So what do you like? What intrigues you? Do twins separated at birth hook you every time? Or does the hard-boiled detective with a soft spot for a vulnerable client get you? I guarantee someone else, a lot of someone else's, love those things too. Here are a few common ones. The ticking clock. This trope is often used in thrillers to ratchet up the tension by imposing a deadline where the hero must do something within a set amount of time or there will be horrible consequences. For example, the hero must find the victim buried in a tomb before air runs out, or deactivate a bomb before the city is blown up, or catch the criminal before he gets on a flight to freedom. Time clocks can also be used effectively in other genres. In Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, Louisa feels the pressure of changing Will's mind about ending his own life as his decision date approaches. Student becomes the master is another common trope, especially in fantasy fiction. Often the mentor dies at the all is lost moment so that the student must step up and face their final challenge on their own, proving that they have what it takes to be a hero. Think of Luke Skywalker losing Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Harry Potter carrying on without Dumbledore. A side note here about cliches and archetypes. A cliche is simply an overused or tired trope. An archetype, which is a common character type such as the femme fatale or the wise mentor, is a trope that is found in nearly all human cultures across time and is believed to be an expression of universal human characteristics. Now let's look at some ways you can fill in your id list using characters. We might already have some character ideas for your id list. You can dig deeper now by taking those character identities and giving them a twist. For example, take superhero and give them a weird or seemingly useless power. This was effectively done in the movie Sky High, where one of the character's main powers was to transform into a guinea pig. It was unexpected and fun. Or take the example from the slide of a minister and transform that character into an agnostic minister. A pastor who has lost their faith could be very interesting. Or perhaps take the case of a professional gambler. What if that character takes big risks in her line of work, but can't make a simple decision to save her life? Polarities are another way to generate some fun character ideas for your id list by using the power of opposites. We can set up polarities between characters so that one character plays off another in a way that reveals some personal trait or flaw. This is an effective way to highlight various aspects of a character through contrast. Borrowing from some classics here, with obvious polarities, sloppy versus neat. The classic movie and follow-up TV show, The Odd Couple, was about two men forced by circumstances to share an apartment. There was a lot of comedy and a lot of character growth caused by these opposing character traits. Or brave versus cowardly. The Wizard of Oz contains the timeless example of Dorothy's courage rubbing off on the cowardly lion. Cautious versus reckless. In the movie Lethal Weapon, we have two cops forced into partnership and into the confined space of a police car who have very different approaches to their work. So consider creating two characters who would absolutely rub each other the wrong way and then force them to be together. Moving on from characters, a specific situation can also be a great jumping off point for brainstorming, and you definitely will want some plot ideas on your id list. Here are just a few. What if the hero witnessed a crime, failed a big test, picked up a hitchhiker, or was unexpectedly served with divorce papers? If you're coming up dry in this area, newspapers, magazines, and online headlines are a great place to get a kernel of an idea for a situation. Settings can provide all kinds of fun, and anything that's fun is possibility for your id list. A few examples: a psychiatric ward. A couple of movies use this setting in very different ways in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest versus Girl Interrupted. A theme park. Wild Ride by Jennifer Cruzy and Bob Mayer is a story where the main characters are trying to prevent a demon imprisoned in an amusement park from escaping to wreak havoc on the world. The idea was fresh because of the setting. The Vatican. In The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown, there were several interesting locations, including a peek inside the Vatican. Lastly, we can't overlook the power of theme. What is your story about? We're talking big picture here. You might be able to back into this by thinking about what your hero has to learn or how you envision them changing over the course of the story. Where can you imagine them going emotionally in this story? For some people, themes become apparent as they start writing, but for others, theme might be a doorway into a story idea. Remember that you can take a theme in multiple directions. For example, forgiveness can be about oneself or others. Love can be about self-love, family love, love between friends, or romantic love. In the case of justice, it could be for a person or for a whole community. Also remember that the main character doesn't necessarily have to learn the theme. They can fail to learn love, for example, and the story still has something to say about love by virtue of that absence. A couple of caveats. We tend to think of brainstorming as something to be done before starting the next story, but in reality, we might need to step back in order to generate fresh ideas at any point in the writing process. So if you find you're dreading writing or you can't seem to make headway on a scene, do some brainstorming to find out what's missing. Also, I've used the word fun and love a lot throughout this presentation, and by that I mean you're having fun. Your character, maybe not if she's trapped in space with a murderous alien, or he's in court fighting for custody of his children. You, however, are having a great time because you're writing things that interest or intrigue you. So use the prompts that we've gone over in the areas of tropes, characters, situations, settings, and themes as a starting point for creating your own go-to list of ideas. The purpose of creating this id list is to embed something you love in every scene, something that makes you eager to write. I hope this program has been helpful and that you'll have time to make your own id list and see where it takes you.